Hi there. I'm going to be doing a series of videos on how I prep and cook a full Packer cut brisket. This one right here is 16.4 pounds, and as I cut it down, I'm going to hang on to the fat just to give an idea of how much of that gets trimmed away. The parts of this video are going to be prepping the brisket, then I'll do another one on putting it on the big green egg, and then on slicing and then cubing up the point to do burnt ends. I'm by no means a professional. I just like to barbecue, and this has been the technique that has worked for me, and maybe others are better for other people, but I figured I'd show the way I do it. So I'm going to use a couple different knives. I'm going to sharpen this one real quick. Now this brisket also is it's very cold. It's not frozen, but I find that having it really cold helps a lot in this stage. And I'm just using one of these. Basically, just put the knife in the V and pull along. So what I like to do is get rid of a lot of this fat in here and here and through here, and really kind of separate out the point, getting rid of a lot of this silver skin as well. So it's worth it to do all of this prep because, first of all, you're not going to eat this. I mean, this is just horrible. But it's also not going to melt in really all that much either. You can see that's a pretty big piece of fat right there that just came right off. I mean, that's not rendering down for you. Rub won't stick to the fat. There's nothing good comes from leaving that on there. So I've got a little fat bag to catch all of the fat as I cut it down here, and then afterwards I'm going to go ahead and weigh that. So along the top here, you can see that there's some silver skin. I try to get as much of that as I can. I'm not always the best at peeling that stuff off, so I get what I can get. And you know, the goal is really just to be able to have as much actual meat for the rub to stick to. I just pat the rub on too. I don't use mustard or anything else. I use a pretty basic rub of salt, pepper, some spices, some paprika. Not too spicy, because I've got little ones that don't like the spice. So little peppery, but definitely not sweet. You don't want sweet on this. It's just not the way to do a brisket, in my opinion. And I may not be the best at cleaning all this out. I'm sure there's people that do it better than me, but like I said, this is how I do it, and at some point you just gotta say it's good enough. So there's a little bit of ice crystal in here. Fridge is probably pretty cold. The other thing too is I always take these out of the cryo packs and then wash them really well and pat them dry. That red stuff that's in there is, you know, not anything good. So just get rid of it. This is actually a pretty decent trim on this brisket already. Come back on that. I'm gonna go ahead and get rid of this in here. And you'll see, cut it this way just for visibility in here. You can see all that. Big, ugly chunk of fat. You'll see my cutting board's kind of spinning around. I actually like that because, like I said, this is a 16.4 pound brisket, and to move around it is, or move it around is kind of a pain. So I'm not using a non-slip cutting board. So just watch your fingers if you're gonna do it this way. I like to be able to move it around on the counter. Yeah, there's a little blood vessel in there that I hit. So another thing that you don't really want in your meat, make it taste a little off, a little irony and bitter. I'm gonna spin this around so it'll be out of view for a second, but easier for me to deal with. So I'm getting that blood vessel out, so I can show that. You can see right in there. So things like that, if you can take care of that, also when you're dealing with chicken or anything else, if you can ever take care of that before you cook it, you're gonna be better off. So doing this, it's a lot of extra prep work that I probably go through, but it's kind of like painting. You're better off spending a lot of time doing your prep. I'm a terrible painter though, I'm a much better barbecuer. But the the whole thing here is you want to get it as close to your end result as you can. Now, make sure that you're working with the materials that you want to work with, which really isn't all this fat. There's plenty of fat in this big chunk of meat to add flavor. And when it's cooking, that's really what's adding the flavor, the fat and the rub. I mean, you're cooking this to 195 internal, which if somebody served you a 195 degree internal steak, you're pretty much asking why they're serving you a big burnt piece of meat. The meat is kind of the binder for all the flavor that's going to happen with the fat and the rub, and the meat as well. But it's really an overdone piece of meat at that point, and that's just how all barbecue is. But people talk about cooking it for 12 hours or 15 hours. I cook it till it's 195, and if it takes me 7 hours, then it's 7 hours. If it takes me 15 hours, then it's 15 hours. I don't really care how long it's going to take. I cook to about 225 is where I like to keep it, 225, 250. I've found this has been good temperature for me, and but it's really not about the time. Restaurants try to sell you on we cooked it at 24 hours, to load the garbage anyway. Most of that was probably reheating it. Yeah, let's get some of that silver skin off. And here's the rest of that vessel. So try to pull all that out. You'd see it in there. Basically, I've carved out a lot of this area. I don't want to take too much off. That kind of acts as a deflector shield. I'll try to avoid the Star Wars references, but that's basically, not only does it cook, but it burns and it melts before your meat does. So you definitely want to leave some fat on. Some people leave it all on, but that's extreme, and you're just really not getting as good flavors you want. There's another vessel right in here that I want out. Need that whole piece out. So I got kind of lucky with this one. Lately I've been buying them. They've had these big USDA inspector check marks right through the meat, and it'll be right through the flat or somewhere else. I tried to pick one that didn't have that. And okay. Let's see what we can do up here. So I'm gonna, again, keep trying to separate out and expose as much of this point as I can. And this is just really thick. You don't want to try to get it all in one shot, obviously, because then you'll just go right into your meat. But when you know it's real thick like this, just get it out of there. There we go. There's some meat. So this bit of fat is still pretty thick. I'm gonna still take this out. Alright, let's focus on this a bit. Grab my other knife. I like to use like a bigger, heavier knife for the sides. So I want it to go pretty true. Okay, I don't want to take any, well, much more off of there. Let's see. Let's get the back end of here. Now there's a big chunk back here. I'm actually not going to do anything about that because, like I said, it's all going to get cubed up anyway. This is something like just hard in here. Let me get rid of that. But since it's all going to get cubed up, again, it's kind of my rear deflector shield there. So we're going to leave that alone. Let's get rid of all this. All right, let's flip it over. So on this side, you can see this is the whole big fat side here. Now here's where there's some controversy. A lot of people cook it like this. They leave it alone, they cook it, and they cook it fat side up and let it all drip down. The belief is that it will help baste. And maybe that's true in some smokers, but my experience with the big green egg is completely unnecessary because it stays plenty moist, and all that really does is just wash away the rub. So I cook fat side down with a tin underneath to catch the drippings. That helps keep my plate setter nice and clean, but also I use that again when I'm after I slice the meat and when I do the burnt ends. So I'm going to take this down, not too much. It's pretty thin in some spots already. I want to try to avoid bald spots as best as I can. Really only want maybe 1/4 of an inch or so. If you look at how thick this is, I mean, you got a good 1/2 inch to inch plus of fat in here, and that's just not going to be necessary. You paid for all that too, by the way. But think about it as you paid for the box that your TV or whatever came in also. So you gotta get rid of that. It doesn't help you. That does not look appetizing. So I'm basically just shaving it down. I take my time here because, again, I really don't want bald spots. I want something to protect, especially since I am going fat side down. I really don't want the meat getting burnt. But also, when you're done with this, you know, after you're done and you slice this up, then you're gonna have big fat ends on your meat. And try it that way. See who eats it. Hopefully not many people will. So, gotta take this stuff down. And as far as the, see, I did it right there. It will happen somewhere. But I left myself gave myself a little bald spot right there. It's okay. I just know not to take any more off there. I'm just gonna shave it here. It won't ruin it or anything. It's just not ideal. In terms of seasoning this or rubbing this, it's not worth it. Rub just won't stick to it. So I really just season the top and the sides. You get some fat that looks kind of cauliflowery like that. Usually that stuff will just pull right off too. You can see. And you can hear that. And that's all stuff that's just not breaking down. Might as well get rid of it. It's not going to break down and give you any flavor. And all it's going to do is give you grizzle. All right, let's flip it back over. Actually, let's get rid of some of this fat first. My guess is I've got at least 2 pounds, maybe 3 pounds of fat. So 3 pounds of fat, be a little less than 20%. And then it's going to render down. So that's why I usually like to do about a 16 pounds. If I get a nice looking 17 or more, I do that too. Fitting it on the egg's a little tricky, but I'll go over how I do that. Should have grabbed that before. So I get that blood vessel. Come on. I really don't like those in there. See it squeezing out here as I popped it. I'm just gonna kind of excise that whole vessel. You see as I push on it, it's draining out all that blood. That's from the brisket, not from me. So I like to get all that out. I'm just gonna cut it in. Okay. Moment of scale truth. So this is what I ended up with. Let me get the brisket out of the way here. You know what? Gotta put it on the plate. zero that out. I was under my guess. .88 ounces, so about 4.5 pounds. So about, what did I say, about $3. So, you know, it's about $13 worth of the purchase right there, and that was it going right into the trash can. So there you have it. Next thing I'm gonna do is just rub it down, and I'm not gonna bother showing that. Nothing secret there. It's just putting rub on meat, and then I'm gonna wrap it, and I'm gonna put it back in the refrigerator. I'm not gonna actually do this until tomorrow morning. It's for dinner tomorrow night, so I'll throw it on in the morning. And the other nice thing that does is that should help me a lot with my smoke ring by putting it on cold. When you put cold meat on the smoker, there's some sort of chemical reaction that happens between the smoke and the meat that gives you a nice smoke ring, and it's more pronounced when it's cold than when the meat's up to room temperature. So I don't know all the chemistry there, I just know that's what happens, so that's how I do it. Thanks for watching, and be sure to check out the next in the series. So here it is after I've rubbed it down now. You also see I put some tin foil under the cutting board. One, that's just so rub doesn't go all over the counter. Two, I'm gonna wrap the whole thing like this on the board itself. The reason I do that is just makes it a whole lot easier carrying it out to the egg and also putting it into the refrigerator. So I just leave it on the board. You can see I got rub deep in those exposed areas. Really pressed it in along the sides as well. I did nothing about the bottom. There's no reason to rub fat. You're just wasting rub. It will just, it'll all fall off anyway, or burn off, or drip off, but fat does not absorb the flavor of the rub. Fat is the flavor itself. So I'm gonna wrap this up, put it in my outdoor fridge, which is pretty much dedicated to holding meat and beer and an occasional bottle of wine. And we will make this tomorrow. I may put some more rub on it. We'll see how this sits. And I find that just doing this the day before saves a lot of time, but also just imparts a better flavor on it as well.